Well, it's infinitely better than 9 hours, isn't it? Right?
Oh, what's in the box?
Welcome to the second episode of SSF Journal. After finishing the campaign, I immediately wanted a 5-link, and at this point I didn't have enough fusings. Well, actually I had enough fusings, but I used them, or more like wasted them, on the Cloak of Flame. So that's why I wanted to use the graveyard to get myself a 5-link, and it's level 77, and that is because I wanted to at least roll tier 2 spell suppression on it. Since I got 5-link, I wanted to focus on my cluster jewels, because they give a lot of power in this build. And as you can see, I dropped my first medium cluster. I'm pretty sure most of you know this, but for those that don't, you can vendor 5 cluster jewels of the same type and rarity and get a new one. And if you want to farm your own cluster jewels, either in SSF or in Trade League, I highly recommend picking this keystone on your Atlas passive tree. This keystone disables the drops of Simulacrum Splinters and Delirium Orbs, but in return you will get a lot more cluster jewels. Crafting the medium cluster jewels in this build is quite straightforward. You just reforge critical until you hit guerrilla tactics and surprise sabotage. And here's a quick reminder for the new players. You might see 4 passive skill medium clusters on build guides, but you don't need that. It's perfectly fine to buy 5 passives, and you just simply don't need to allocate the 5th one, and you can just get to the jewel socket on the medium cluster just fine. So don't overpay for it. And here I got my large cluster. Crafting this is pretty much the same as the medium one. You just reforge chaos until you hit 3 notables that you want. And the reason why you want 3 notables is to save 2 passive skill points. So I will try to do that. After getting my cluster set up, I wanted to get my void stones. I killed Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds. The fights themselves were quite easy, if you don't consider the fact that I died 3 or 4 times to the ball phase of Exarch, but that's to be expected. If you watched the previous video, you know that. And the damage was a bit lower than I expected, but I guess that's okay, because my gear is pretty much equal to a day 1 or day 2 trade gear. I'm sure the damage will pick up with a bit more investment, but to be honest, I'm liking the build so far. While I was farming for the rest of my clusters, I thought that maybe I should also farm Penitent cards. This card drops from cells, cage and dungeon maps, and supposedly it has Profane Proxy in its drop pool, but we'll see. Since I will also need an elemental weakness on hit rank, which can roll on a hunter base, I set up a distracted play strategy on my 3rd Atlas tree. So I will hopefully either drop an influenced Amethyst base ring or a Hunter Exalted Orb. And I finally dropped Black Morgan Scarab, which I will be using to 6-link my body armor. And I was running Alva with Delirium while farming for my clusters, so I set up a temple with Doriani's Institute, and I tried to double corrupt my Hexblast, and it went on the first try. Since I got my Black Morgan Scarab, I needed a better base to 6-link, so I went to the graveyard and crafted a level 86 Sadist Garb. And if you get the Black Morgan Scarab, I highly suggest running it like this with the Bestiary Scarab of Doubling, because you might need to 6-link another body armor, or you might play another build, so that will help you a lot. And after that, I just 6-linked my own body armor. I dropped my first Perandus, so hopefully if I drop the rest of them, I will craft the Chaos Damage variant. And here I dropped the Stygian Vice, and this really took some weight off of me because I didn't really want to spec into Abyss. So that's good. That's really good. And here I got another Perandus. I finally got an additional craft, so now I can start working on the wand itself. As you can see, I finished setting up the graveyard layout. I'm using Spicy Sushi's layout for this craft, but of course I tweaked it according to my corpses. As you can see, I only have 60% additional craft chance. I might not even get another craft. And to craft this wand, you pretty much only increase critical and gem modifiers while reducing the other ones. And the end result should look something like this. But beware, if you want to do this craft yourself, the wand itself needs to be level 82. Otherwise, another suffix will be added to the pool, which will be chaos damage over time multiplier. So it will be harder to hit +1 to all chaos spell skill gems. So you need to be careful about that. So let's hit it, and hopefully we'll get 2 wands with the modifiers that we want. And we got 2 wands. Let's see. Yeah, this one isn't really that good with mana for some reason. Oh, but this one, yes, this one is really good. Okay. Critical strike chance for spells isn't really something that we want, especially in the end game once you get Sandstorm Visage. But this is really usable right now. Nice. Okay, so I'm just going to craft spell damage on this and start using it. Of course, there won't be any mind throwing speed since the suffixes are full, but it's good for now. And hopefully it will be a huge damage spike, because I don't know how good the build itself will feel without flammability on hit that we get from the Dread Arc. But I'm going to try, and if it feels bad, I'm going to switch back to Dread Arc until I get an elemental weakness on hit ring and profane proxy. Or alternatively, if I get an elemental weakness on hit ring, I will move the flammability onto the blasphemy support. Finally drop my other large clusters, so now that I can stop doing delirium. Then I kept turning in penitent cards. Again. 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 And again. And since I had both my cluster setups now, I reset my tree, but as you can see, I need a lot of attributes. So that's why if you want to play this build, get your attributes from your amulet. That will be really better, really easy to meet the requirements. But I guess I will also need a Lethal Pride, so I should farm one. Other than that, I dropped another Perandus corpse, and I want to finish this episode with this one. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. It would help me a lot if you like, subscribe or comment. I will see you on the next video, and as always, have a good one.